Well, if you love an underdog story, this is one for the ages, because welcome back to the James Ramblin Reviews for yet another review. In today's review, I'm going to be reviewing for you the documentary called Sunderland Till I Die. It is a documentary that I personally went out of my way to watch, and I enjoyed the documentary. And just so you know, for a bit of context, I didn't know a lot about the Sunderland Football Club coming into this. I knew that Sunderland was a football team, obviously, I knew that part, but I didn't know the whole history and the journey and all of that. So, if you want to know what it is all about, there is a long description on Google, but I'm not going to use that. I'll just do my own interpretation, and then I will copy paste the Google description into the description of the video. So there is that. But what you need to know is that Sunderland is a city in England. It is a football club, and what this documentary is pretty much trying to tell the audience is that this is a football team that was once at the top of their game in the Premier League, with the likes of Manchester United, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, all the big teams, Tottenham. They were in the mix of the Premier League, but then something happened where they got pushed down to the English Football League Championship, or the EFL Championship, where they were relegated. And there's a guy, a co-owner called Scott Bain. This is at the start of the series as well, about season 1, season 2 as well, you could say. And Scott Bain was this guy where he just was not corresponding properly. He wasn't going about doing his job properly, which meant that when Sunderland were trying to get themselves promoted, they were taking a long time to really get Sunderland out of this mess. And then when they bring in the new owners, everything changes. So that's what I will say about the documentary. So let's start off with what I actually like about this documentary, is that it gives you a full-scale, experience of what it's like when a football club is, in turmoil, in one of the worst positions that it could ever have been in, getting relegated from one of the biggest, highest-paid divisions in, the country of England. And honestly, I like that, and how the documentary does give you fan perspectives. It stops to show you how the fans are feeling, and how there's this lady that bakes stuff in it's like a butcher's or a bakery and things like that, and you just see how her response and how she feeds the players, and how there's so much connection with the players, and everyone in the town just wants to see Sunderland rise to the top again. And it's all of that stuff where it's just passionate. You could tell that there was a lot of passion, a lot of thought put into the documentary. So there is that. I mean, you even get moments throughout this documentary where the fans show up to a game. Sunderland could be 2-0 down, 3-0 down before half time, or even in the full 90, and the fans will just keep going to these games until they see their team, promoted to the Premiership, the Premier League, and things like that. So that's what I really do like about that. There's also the song at the start as well, that it sets the tone. It's a bit of a sad song, and it's a bit melodic and slow and all of that, but it does a good job to, when you start opening up an episode, when you start watching an episode, and then the intro comes and it shows you how there's the image and all of that, and the ship. It does have a ship in the Sunderland kind of intro of the series, because if you didn't know, this is a fun fact that I learned, that Sunderland, the town of Sunderland, actually has a lot of shipbuilding, things like that, and there would be people building ships and things like that. So that's why there was a ship in the intro, and then there'd be the music, all of that stuff, and so I do like that. And I just like I just like a lot. I just like the whole documentary, really. I don't think there's a dull moment in this documentary. It does everything right in a way that you just feel captivated by it. And when the fans, especially there's moments throughout the documentary where it feels like I'm actually immersed in the actual documentary. So when the fans see the Sunderland players score, you're like, yes, you know what I mean? It's like that thing where you get immersed and it's like, oh yes, let's go kind of thing. And there's those things where it's designed in a certain way where they just are able to capture it in such a good way. So there's a lot of that stuff I liked about the documentary. And I can't really complain about the documentary at all. What I will say is that Scott Bain, he's actually the Scottish co-owner of Sunderland, or the previous co-owner of Sunderland, and he is aggravating to watch when he is just making silly mistakes. Like, for example, when there's a transfer window in a football season, that's when you bring in players, so then it helps out the rest of the season. And especially when it got to the January transfer windows and it was deadline day, and that was towards the start of the documentary, by the way, when it was towards deadline day, Scott Bain would always leave it to the last minute before he even signed anyone, and that's what I didn't like about Scott Bain. But it does give you that sense of how, you're just built to hate this guy, because he just did not have a clue what he was doing. You could tell he was just there for the money. He kept just ignoring the fans and stuff like that, and he'd obviously not be able to communicate properly with the manager and things. He just was not the guy for the job. So see the part where they get the new owners in, that's my favourite part of the documentary. I mean, the documentary gets better and better the more you watch it, obviously, but especially when they bring in the new owners and they just absolutely change Sunderland for the rest of, for it to come, really, for everything to happen. They change the course of the football club and everything just comes into fruition at that point. And even the new owners, actually, I should say, they just try and find a way to build as big of an atmosphere as they can, get as many fans in the stadium, sell it out and all of that. Whereas Scott Bain was never there for that. He never tried to sell out a stadium. He was there for the money. You could tell he was just arrogant. He just did not care about this football club. And so, if I was to give this documentary a rating out of 10, you know what? I've not done this in a while on my channel, but I'm going to give this documentary a 10 out of 10. It is amazing, and I'm going to chase down maybe a few more football documentaries because it is interesting. It's an interesting subject when there's actually people that have put time and effort into it, and you can see how the results show when you put effort into something. You do see the results, because there's a lot of stuff and information I didn't even know about until I watched the documentary. So the people that wrote the documentary, the people that filmed it and all of that, and it made it, the documentary is authentic as well, because they actually filmed it while Sunderland were actually going down into the lower league divisions, like the Championship and stuff like that. So overall, like I said, it's a 10 out of 10. This will be a bit of a longer review, bit on the longer side, but it's worth it because it is that type of thing where it's one to talk about, it's one for the ages, like I said earlier on in the video. It's a really good documentary. I believe there is a Wrexham documentary. I'll watch that maybe and see what that's like, because I'm not sure if it's similar to Sunderland, the documentary, where it's just like they have that underdog story, they rise up in the ranks. It might be something like that, but I'll definitely give these other types of documentaries a watch, because it gives you something. It gives me something else to review, and then it gets me it's able to have it makes me able to have knowledge as well, and then it's something interesting for the channel. I know I like my movie reviews, but if I just sneak in some documentaries as well, I mean, that would mix it up a bit and then would make things interesting for this channel. So stay tuned for more reviews like this. I did review a documentary, it was Inside the Manosphere, so I can link that down below, but this is completely different, and I hope you enjoyed this review. Stay tuned for more reviews on the James Rambling Reviews. Goodbye. See you for another review on the channel. See ya.